here we go. Let's send it one more time. I think this is our, what, fourth live build? Harshit, is this number 4?
Sounds right.
Number 4,
Yep.
live build. That's
So,
right, we took a week off last week. So live stream number 4, client first live build. I'm still here with Joe. This is our last episode where we'll be in the same room. So that's been a lot of fun. We're cramming into a small space here, but once Harshit gets into screen sharing, we'll open that up just a little bit. Harshit, what's up? Talk to us a little bit. We're back on this outline site, and we're gonna build, what are we focusing on today?
for sure. So, hello everyone, welcome to the stream. And today we are going to focus on the Nav Bar. That is very interesting. The Nav Bar of the outline.com. So last time we finished the hero section, the header section of the website. And now we are going to make the Nav Bar of this website, which looks really interesting to me, how it opens, how it closes. The nav links are having some kind of hover animations on them. And there is a load animation as well. So it will be fun. And that is why, we are just going to focus in a smaller part of the website, that is Nav Bar. So it will make more sense in terms of, you will be able to see smaller details of the whole tutorial. So I hope you will enjoy it.
Nice. You can just kill your audio on that if you want. That way you can. And then Joe, what's up? What are you thinking as we jump into these live streams?
Well, another opportunity to learn. That I feel like this live build is kind of going past beginner builds. The previous builds we were focusing a lot on client first, how the naming works, and we're still going to do that, but now we're doing some more difficult things. We're going to be jumping into interactions. We're probably going to learn something brand new today that we weren't covering on live builds 1, 2, and 3. So I see the progression here. I'm very excited.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, and if you're watching, we'll ask the usual, if you get any value out of these streams, if you enjoy these streams week after week, we appreciate the like on the YouTube video. And if you're not subscribed, we made some announcements on Tuesday. We had a fun little live stream that turned to podcast. So the computer's plugged in, everything's good to go today. We are charging, and hopefully internet is super stable. Everything's super crispy. Harshit is about to start sharing his screen, and we're gonna give some love to the folks in the audience real quick. So what's up, Alan Connor, Christopher Coleman, Colleen Brady in the house. What's up, Colleen? Dale Jensen, who's that? Jenny Cake Scotland. Okay, Steve Hilario, Wilson Martins, WKD, I saw Magdalena in here. What is up, everyone? Welcome, and let's get to it. Harshit, whenever you're ready, we can share the screen, and then as usual, Harshit will be building, and we'll do a little color commentary in the background. So we'll be then just kind of chatting about what he's building, walking you through the process, answering questions. I see Miriella's popped in here. Penny, what's up, Penny? Diego Diaz, what's up, Ian? Jose Arce, hello, hello, hello. What's up, everybody? It's cool to see you all. So Harshit, yeah, whenever you're ready, we'll jump right into your screen, bud. All right, let's go here. Let's go here. All right, nice. Harshit, and I think we lost your audio. Can you give us a sound check real quick, Harshit? Hello, Harshit. All right, looks like we've lost.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, my audio was muted from here.
Yes. Okay, so now we have Harshit's audio. He's inside, and this is, again, a recreation of this outline, which honestly I used to read all the time, and then I was just exploring this the other day, and it looks like in April of last year, they just hung up the whole project. It's kind of sad to see because it was a cool little independent media operation here. But anyway, the design is kind of punchy. It's got some cool little things here, and so Harshit is going to show us how to rebuild the navigation. We built the kind of the hero section last time, and we didn't really touch the navigation, the header, any of that stuff. And so Harshit today is going to walk us through some of these elements, creating some of these hover interactions, and showing how to maintain client first through some of that, right? So how do you kind of keep and maintain the client first use cases as you start getting into a little bit more complex build stuff? So again, let's just jump right in. Harshit?
Yeah. So let's start this thing. So last time we left it off here. We actually imported the nav bar, but we kind of hide it temporarily. So I will just make this visible, and let's make it visible. Okay, so we have this nav bar, and I'm just going to check the structure of the website, how it is made. So I can see that nav bar is kind of expanding up to 50% of the viewport. So probably I'm going to use VW here, but let's see how it goes, how we can make it. And so I have not actually seen all of the things. So let's start from here. I'm going to make my nav bar. Is it sticky? No. Okay. So some of it is sticky and some of it is not. Nice. This is interesting. Okay. So we can divide it into three parts. So first I will just make my nav component. I'm going to make it fixed. It is directly placed outside, so I can also make it sticky. That will also work. And whenever we make our object sticky, we want to make sure that we are giving it a value here on the top. So the offset value in the top. So here I'm going to set it 0 rems. So, okay, there we go. It is sticky, but now it is placed here. So I think fixed is a better option. So I'm just changing my decision here. There we go. This looks better.
So
Now
real
let's see
quick,
what we
walk
have
me,
inside.
what was the decision there real quick?
Yeah, so the decision was that initially I thought I will make it sticky, but because we have a padding in our page wrapper, because of that, I was getting an issue that we will have a space on the top. Usually on the website we don't have this part, so it works fine. The sticky works fine. Okay, so let's say we don't have a top padding there, and I'm going to make this sticky, 0 rem in the top. And now you can see my section, my nav bar is working fine. But in this particular case, we have a top pairing of 4.5 rems. And that is the reason I'm going to make this nav bar fixed this time, so that it kind of, jumps out of that pairing part.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And as usual, we are going to replace the Webflow nav bar with our own nav bar. I have named it nav container. Let me give a little bit of zoom here. There we go. We have nav underscore container that is part of our nav component. And I'm going to move all the default components like brand, link, nav menu, and nav menu button on top, inside that. Let's move this inside here. Nice. I will make my nav component transparent. Here we go. And here comes the alignment part. So I am going to divide the nav bar into 3 parts now. So I can see that I can even divide it into 2 parts and take the outline as a complete different thing. But I think what I will do for now is take them all in one as a one nav bar and start from here. So or maybe let's do it how it is on the website. Okay, so first we will do the nav bar. So it is divided into 2 parts. You can see the outline logo. It is not fixed with the nav bar. When I'm scrolling, it is sticking in the top. So I'm not going to place the outline logo in the nav bar, but I'm going to place that separately outside the nav bar. So on the nav bar, we are going to have this on the left side, the smaller version of the logo, and on the right side, we are going to have our menu button. So let's do that here. From Webflow settings, I'm going to turn on my menu button for my desktop. Let's switch it. And here we go. We have our nav bar ready here. And I'm just going to name everything based on client first. So let's rename everything.
So Harshit, real quick, can you talk to me a little bit about how you're going to keep the logo in the nav bar or looking like it is part of the nav bar, and then let that scroll while the corners stay fixed? Because when I notice on the on the outline site, like if I come over here to the page, just like you were saying before, the outline logo stays centered at the top of the screen here, and then it looks like the outline, logo on the left stays fixed, and on the right, the menu trigger stays fixed to the right. So can you just talk me through a little bit of that process of thinking? Like, are you putting that in another div above your main content container, and then your menu and logo wrapper will be fixed to the top of the page? Are those going to be inside the same element? Can you just, like walk me through a little bit about how you're going to create that separation?
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm planning to do here is to keep Nav Bar as a separate component, and the outline logo that we have in the center is going to be in a separate div that will have its own position fixed, and it will be in top of our Nav Bar itself. So this is the plan, and I'm going to execute this. Yeah, and let's see how it goes.
And there are a few ways to do this. It should be noted that Harshit's going to do one method. There's another method. That's a great part about building websites, that every time that you do something, it's usually a decision. What's the benefit of doing it this way over this way over this way? So we're going to see this first version here.
Yeah, and question, Harshit, would making that logo fixed cover the outline, or will it let it scroll up like the one on the page there? Just asking for curiosity.
This the center one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, it will not be fixed but absolute, so that
Got
it is not moving with the screen. Yeah,
Got it. So it'll
Yeah.
scroll up with the screen, correct?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, nice, awesome.
So yeah, let's do that. I'm just going to apply. Okay, I'm just going to apply all the names. So nav underscore brand link. It's better to call it brand link, not only brand or brand logo, because it might be confusing, because in the end we are going to actually import image inside that. So that can be named as then image nav underscore brand logo or brand image, something like that. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, I think I don't have this particular one.
And
Okay,
great point
let's
there.
import something else.
Anytime you're using a link, use that keyword inside the class name. That just the word wrapper or container is not enough when it's a link. We need to say it's a link. Because just like Harshit said, when we nest something, it's then going to be the image. Maybe there's a piece of text. Maybe there's a wrapper outside of it. And we want to know exactly which one is the URL that goes to somewhere else in the build.
Correct.
And because I don't have the nav logo exported here, I'm not going to put a time on that, and I cannot export it here for some reasons. I can go and export it from here, but yeah, it's going to take some time to find it. So I'm just going to use this Dogecoin logo here.
Yeah, do your thing. Maybe we can find it real quick and we'll send it to you to replace it. So just hold a placeholder, and
okay, sure.
I think Joe's going to jump in on his end and see if we can find that little O logo for you, and we'll send that over in Slack or something.
Nice, sounds good. Okay, so we have this, and I have named it Nav brand logo. So now it is very clear that this is link and this is the logo itself. Now, what I will do is I will give my nav container. Okay, so you can see that I have not my page padding here. That is because it's kind of touching the boundary here. I'm just going to place a page padding on top of my nav container. So let's just do that.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the client-first system, the page padding is a global spacing system that Harshit just created a div there and nested, the other stuff that he was building inside of that, so that he can set that page padding globally for the header. Although it does look like on the website, the logo and the nav are wider than your typical page padding, so they don't follow the same page padding there. So Harshit, how would you address that?
Yes, that's a nice question. So what I will do is I will just use a combo class here, and I'm going to apply a combo class on my page padding, and I will call it is nav bar, or is for nav bar. I can make it something more definitive here. So let's call it is for nav bar. And now when I'm here, I can understand this is a page padding that is for nav bar. I can call it is nav bar as well, but it just depends. So I mean, it's your choice what you want to call it. But it is important that is there, so that the it is a combo class and not a global class. So whenever we write a combo class, we use is as a prefix. And now what I will do, I will simply reduce the space here. So let's make it 2 rems both of the side. I'm also going to apply a little bit of padding vertical here. I'm not going to use the padding vertical global class here, because this is something we can directly apply to our nav component or nav container. Both will work fine. One more thing that I'm going to do is apply a alignment, a flex box to my nav container, and I will just separate them like this. Justify space between, yeah, this option right here. Let's apply a little bit of padding.
Yeah, and again, this is a good place to point out that this is the flexibility of the client first, is that you can use the custom classes when needed, right? So the idea is to have the global classes for your core elements, for the core structures, for the things that you are going to use across every single page. But when it gets into custom elements or custom components, even if they're going to be used across the page, you can still manage those, right? So like this nav is probably going to be the same on every page, but it's a custom component. And so you may be creating a class specific to just the menu. And as we're seeing, we used a combo class of the page padding. So just knowing that the client first system is really built to be flexible in that capacity. So you're not only just using a bunch of utility classes, and you don't have to memorize every potential possibility here. You don't have 1,000 classes in there that are just, you got to go look up what do they call it. You can make those up on your own, and as long as they're clear and semantic and they make sense, it'll work.
Yep. One more nice trick that I would like to show here. So a lot of time, this is what I personally do, but let us know in the comments if there is something better, So I'm going to fix this nav bar button issue. So generally you will see that we have a padding in our nav bar button. I'm in nav menu button, I should call it. So in nav menu button, because we have a page padding here and then internal padding in our nav menu itself, it kind of looks misaligned. So our doggo is kind of having this much of a space, but nav menu button is having extra padding here. So how can we fix that? So what I will just do is apply a negative margin equal to the internal padding of my nav menu button. So I'm just going to apply minus 1.25 rems, and now it will be perfectly aligned, just like the logo here. So this is nice trick that you can use.
Question, Harshit. On this menu, what are you using for the menu icon? Is this just a icon that you found? Do you recommend people use, I like to use like divs on the menu buttons, just because then like if I'm going to create an interaction or something, is this an icon you found? Talk to me about how you're creating the menu button there.
Yeah, so right now the menu button is just the default menu button of Webflow. But the recommendation is, as you said, to have a Lottie animation. You can find some of the best menu Lottie animation and others as well on the Lottieflow website. So yeah, you can find some good animations there, or you can make a div. You can create animations by creating some lines with the div and create your own navigation there. But the most efficient way, in my personal opinion, is the Lottieflow animations. I mean, you can insert a Lottie file and then animate it on nav open and close. So that is one of the best way.
Sure, and I think that's a great trick if you need an animated menu. If we look on this site, there's not an animation, and I think a lot of times people do that for performance reasons. So while Lottie files are pretty light, you may or may not want to use one for your site just because performance, any extra load. And so I think in this instance, it's a simple little icon, and we can get away with just using the native one here. But if you are looking for a little bit more custom nav menu button, menu bar, hamburger menu, whatever it is there's a number of ways to skin that cat. And it depends on whether you're trying to build an interaction, whether you're trying to create some kind of animated menu open. But like you can see in this instance, it could just be as simple as, having a little icon. And when you see here that we open the menu, it really just comes in, and the X itself. I know a lot of times people like to turn their menu divs into the X, but it looks like for performance, they chose not to do that. And you could understand why either of those work, just as well. So again, it comes down to the preference of the developer and the necessity of the site, the needs of the site itself. Daniel Nichols is asking, I thought negative margins were a bad practice. Harshit, what say you?
No, I don't think that it's a bad practice, because if it's there, you can make a good use out of it. Okay, so it's not like a bad practice. Where it works, where it's necessary, you can use it. Okay, so here I just used a trick to apply a negative margin. Or maybe can you tell us maybe what are the negative points that you think for the negative margin? I don't think that I am actually breaking anything here, or yeah, it will break something.
Yeah, I was just
It's
going to
perfectly
say,
fine. Yeah.
before this question came in, I was just going to say that I love using the negative margin for that reason, for the reason that you're using it. I think negative margin is okay if there is a use case for it, if you are using it for a meaningful purpose. If you just have negative margin just to reduce space from margin that was already created, so let's say something is giving margin, something else is just giving less margin to close up space, maybe not a good idea. But in this, we're actually creating a click target. We're giving space to that element so that when the user clicks it, their click is recognized. And the negative margin is then offsetting that space so that everything stays in the grid visually. So yeah, I think that's a great practice if it's used for a meaningful purpose like this.
And here's an answer from Stack Overflow too. It's the top Google search result for is using negative margins bad practice, because that's a good way to look things up. And the first answer says no, it's not bad practice so long as you're aware of the fact that you're using negative margins and that this necessarily moves elements from their otherwise normal positioning.
There it is.
And then some people say it is considered bad practice because it makes it complex or more difficult for somebody else to jump in. And so if somebody doesn't know that negative margin is there, you could create an issue for yourself, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's any performance or specific reason why you shouldn't have that function. So yeah, as long as you know that you're doing it and you know that it's there, it's probably not something that you want to use prolifically. You don't want to just get in the business of every time you need to make an adjustment, you're adding negative margins. But if it is something you need, it is it's there in the toolbox to be used. And it looks Harshit like you're using a native, like the Webflow native. Is this the menu drop down or what
Menu?
are we using here?
Yes, so I'm going to use the native Webflow nav menu here. Okay, because of the reason I think personally I have not researched it deeply, but I think yeah. So the plus point of using nav menu, the Webflow nav menu, is we can actually use the triggers, nav open triggers. So if I go to the element trigger, you will see we have a nav bar open trigger here. So I use nav menu because of that, and we can actually customize that. There is a trick to customize the default nav menu, but we can actually make it usable completely. It's fine. There are ways to build custom nav menu as well, but in this case, this will work perfectly fine for me. And I think it's better for, you will have more control over it in terms of animations and interactions.
Got it. And so again, this is one of those instances where there's a number of ways to skin this cat. Some of you, and here we are with the cats again. Where's the PETA folks going to tell us to stop talking about skinning cats? Okay, so, I, in my early days, probably would have just, built a div and created custom interactions and, you could do that too. But what Harshit's saying, and it's totally valid here, is that you could use the native Webflow menu element and take advantage of some of those custom interactions with those triggers. And so you can get the same effect, the same look, And really, when you break these elements down, you get this, you get just divs, right, inside of this content, but you get the option in the settings to then open or close the menu, which sometimes is a little easier than just showing or hiding a container, right? A lot of times when you create a custom interaction or a custom menu like this, you then have to do a lot of hide show, in your interactions. You have to like set the hide state, or the initial state is hidden, and then show, and then hide, and then like when you're building the site, then this thing is covering your viewport, and so then maybe you need to hide it while you're working. And so like there's a number of reasons why you may want to use one or the other, but again, just showing the versatility and the fact that there's just a number of ways to do all of this. You could be watching somebody else stream and build the exact same thing, and maybe they build it a completely different way. So it's really it's really up to you all how you do that.
And let's also consider accessibility. Accessibility does come somewhat pre-packaged inside this nav component. You're getting the nav tag on that outer element. On that click trigger,
Exactly.
it's adding an active state to that open nav. This is going to be easier for screen readers to go and open by default.
Right.
You can turn any div structure into accessible ready, but it requires some attributes, some custom code maybe. So this makes it a lot more difficult. So using the native nav is something I also like to do by default.
Yeah. And the only time I guess you maybe wouldn't is if it's super custom, or if you're trying to do something special with this, But if you can get away with it, using that native component can for sure help with exactly what Joe said, accessibility. Let's see, Brian Finch is saying, gotta have some skin in the game. Yeah, the cats apparently got all the skin in the game.
Okay, so I cannot hear you for some reason, Remar. Let me see.
So what's happening is we're muting ourselves when we're not chatting, because there's a lot of room, there's a lot of noise in this co-working space. There's like some construction happening. And so when we're not directly speaking, just to avoid the pounding and the background noise in the recording here, we're muting ourselves. So yeah, you'll hear us go dark for a little bit there. But
Okay,
we're still
nice.
here.
Sounds good. Okay, so I will continue the tutorial here. So I'm just going to make this nav icon here. So let's make that one here. So what I did, I have taken a div block. I have named it nav_logo wrapper. You can see that I have placed this outside my nav component. It is perfectly fine. There is one more way you can do this, that you take a div block and you call this one nav component. Okay. And then this is, okay, so let me go back and rename this to something like nav_, what we call it, maybe menu bar. This one will be called logo wrapper, and the top one is going to be called as nav component. Why I'm doing this, so that I can make the whole thing symbol. I don't have to copy and paste two of the parts, the outline and then the fixed version. So I can copy both of them in one go. This one right here, I'm going to make this absolute, and I'm going to position it like this on the top. And inside that, I have taken a link. I'm going to call it nav_logo link. So this is also a link because it's taking us to the home page. And I'm just going to center align it like this. Let's take our logo inside. Okay, I think I took it to the wrong one. There we go. And I will call it nav logo. There we go. And now you can see that it might create a confusion here that it is also called nav_brand logo. So I'm just going to rename it to brand_icon. I mean nav_brand icon. So it's now clear that this is icon and this is the logo. Let's see why it's not expanding. Okay, I will give it a width here, so 2 rems.
And Joe, while Harshit is figuring that out, let's see. Michael Rose was asking, anyone have advice on retrofitting an existing Webflow site into client first? So any thoughts on that?
Well, Michael, this could be an easy task. This could be a very difficult task and maybe something we recommend against. It depends how that site was built. If the practices are somewhat similar to client first, I think there's a chance to do that. You can go in the extension, you can safely add the spacing, margin, padding right to that existing build inside the extension. But if this build is completely different, if it has a totally different naming convention, it may not be a good idea to put client first in there because now you have 2 totally different systems. So before I give a really exact answer on that, I'd have to see the build.
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, it's hard to retrofit it's hard to retrofit this, just period, I think.
It is.
Because especially if it's just convoluted inside the build and there's div 360 whatever, or even into the thousands sometimes, because you won't really be able to clean that stuff up. This is where you may want to use the extension, clear out all of the styles on a specific page, and just leave all the divs with the content inside of them, and then you go through and you restyle those using the client first system. So you may want to just duplicate the project into a different Webflow project, go in and literally just clean up all the styles, just get rid of all your styling, and then you can use the client first to go in and kind of reset that up in a proper way. There's no magic in client first that's going to fix a bunch of other mistakes that somebody made in nesting or layering divs awkwardly inside of Webflow. And yeah, there's just, and we all know what it's like to step into a booby-trapped Webflow site, where you go in and there's just 1,000 different styles for the same thing, 20 different heading types, and you just, you think you fixed something, and then you go 3 pages later and it's not there, those changes didn't show up, and then you change that and it affects something on a whole different page that you didn't even imagine was connected to that. And so we all know these can be booby traps, so not really an easy cut and dry answer there. Yeah, and that's what Michael's saying. Yep, that's what I've been running into. Easier to create a new client first site. Yeah, exactly. Daniel Nichols is saying, hey everyone, I've worked out Finsweet's cunning plan. Feed us with amazing streams so we watch them, miss deadlines, and then they nick all of our clients.
He's figured it out.
That's it. That's our master strategy there. Yeah, we've actually got tracking cookies running through YouTube. So basically, like if you watch YouTube, YouTube tells us who's watching, and then that goes back and like scans your client database, and it sends us all those details in real time here. So yeah,
that's the magic of Finsweet.
Let's see. Michael Rose is saying it's my own booby traps from when I was learning Webflow best practices. Yeah, Michael. Honestly, I still have some stuff, and I still have clonables out there that I think that if people went through and they cloned them, they'd be like, ugh, because when you're learning and when you're first getting in here, it's not super easy to know. That's why client first is kind of matriculating through the community as much as it is, because lots of people are looking for good systems to name in Webflow, and it's not something that comes intuitively. If you're not coming from like CSS or working with like a BEM naming model or some real structured naming system, coming to Webflow, like in a WordPress, a Wix, a Squarespace, you don't know anything about classes, right? Maybe in WordPress you have short codes to kind of add some functionality, but still you're not controlling the global classes. That's all coming from a theme. And so you can't really break these things in a lot of these other platforms. And so while Webflow gives you a lot of power in that context, that you can build almost anything visually, you do then also have the power to break things and to create just really ugly, we've all seen the memes of like the front end versus the back end, where it's like, yeah, go check out the Webflow memes channel for some good stuff on that. Let's see.
And Harshit, when you have a chance, I sent you the icon, the brand icon in Slack, so you can update the dog.
Nice. And Mariella is saying it could work if you already use somewhat the same logic in class naming structuring. Yeah, if you have a system that's fairly similar to Harshit, could you put that just on a separate screen there so you can leave the? I can just cut to this actually while you're there.
Yeah.
No, we're good. Yeah, if you're using that, but a lot of people aren't using that, right? A lot of people that are finding client first didn't have a system or a structure like that, so it may be difficult in that context. And then go ahead.
A great thing to do if you have a really messy build and you just can't even continue with that naming convention, it's so difficult, so confusing that you can't continue with it, you can just change midway to something like client first. And that's almost a visual marker to say, hey, this is when I'm taking over the site. Everything with this naming convention is old, it's not usable, we don't know what it is, and now everything moving forward has this style. So that is a method to just do a very dramatic change if you can't use that existing one.
Yeah, and Colleen's saying, I'm adapting a project to client first. I was already following some of the principles, so it hasn't been that hard. Being able to merge styles with extension help too.
Nice.
Yes. We talked about this yesterday. We did a live stream from the Floxy's community. They had Harshit as well, hanging with them, teaching them about client first. And we talked about that, where sometimes you want to build fast and you don't want to worry about the classes. And so maybe you create a couple extra combo classes, or you create some stuff that's not perfect. Using the Finsweet extension for Webflow, you can go in and merge those classes, remove classes, unbind elements, strip all the classes from a page, and then you have choices to make those changes to the specific element, to all elements with that class. Like, there's a lot of versatility using that extension to kind of do some of this. So let's catch up with Harshit real quick. Where are we in this process, Harshit?
Yeah, sure. So I was kind of preparing the nav bar. I have not made a lot of progress because this is very important part here. So I'm just going to show the structure, how I'm structuring the whole thing, and then we can see how to make that the main nav menu. So first I'm going to close the nav menu just from here, Webflow settings, and I have a big nav component. And you can see that I have divided it into two parts. One of them is nav logo wrapper. The second is nav menu bar. So inside my menu bar, it is something that will actually open and contain the nav links, something like this. And the nav logo wrapper, that is something, you can see that it is kind of right here, but I have actually set the internal thing, that is the logo link, to a position of absolute. So it is kind of fixed all the time in the top. And you can also see that it is taking some space because of this padding. I will remove this, and there we go. So this div block is not taking any space. The space is taken by this nav logo link. And inside that, I have my nav logo. Now what I will do, you can see that it is unclickable right now. I want to create a hover interaction here on the live website. You will be able to see that when I'm hovering, it's kind of getting black. So I'm just going to select this thing, and on hover, I'm going to apply a filter of invert. I can again do two things here. I can export the code of that particular nav bar, nav icon, and I can use the color change functionality and change the color on hover. But here, because it is black, I can simply choose to go with something like this. And you can see this is not clickable, so I'm just going to increase the Z index. So let's select our nav logo link and increase the Z index to something like 5. So it's top of everything. Okay, it's not yet. What can we do here? Let's see.
I do believe that has a Z in by default.
No, okay. Let me see what's wrong here. So maybe if I take this outside, Yeah. So when I'm taking this outside, it's working, but not
Do you
completely. Yeah.
have
Let's
your
troubleshoot
fixed
this thing.
header over top of it with another z-index by any chance? Does Webflow with their menu kind of add automatic z-index there?
And then because
I think I should give this one the nav component, the nav bar, a z index of maybe one. Oh yeah, there we go. Remember, you're right.
Yeah.
It was just the default z index. I think we can place it inside as well. Yeah, it works
Yeah,
fine.
just so y'all
Okay,
think we
so
ain't over here, like I'm not building every day, but we know a little something, okay? Hey Bob, I think we got to dust our Webflow building socks off and get a little, get in there every once in a while and learn. So we learn as we go, right? So like our shit teaches us as we go here a little bit. We've got and as we were talking about doing like some of these boot camps, right? So these client first boot camps are things that we're working on. If you're following our Tuesday streams, yesterday, Colleen, Joe, and I were also talking about some educational stuff. How do we take this one step further with some hands-on learning? Because it's all great and well to just watch a stream and kind of see it as it goes, but that's not your project, right? When you have your project, it's a whole different ball of wax, right? It's something else that you need to figure out specific to your use case. And so can we create an environment where you can come in and hands-on get some help with whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether that's in client first, whether that's with our CMS library, whether that's with the new attributes products that we're rolling out, whether that's with any of the tools that we're providing. Can we create another tier above that so that we can get hands-on in these workshops rather than just on a one-way street here? So let us know what you think about that. If it's something that you are interested in, if you find value in, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments here. We'd like to hear from you about any of that programming you'd like to see. Again, the Thursday streams are just kind of experimentation. So next week we might try something else. The week after, who knows, right? So we'll keep you on your toes with these Thursday streams. Let's see. Jeremy says he's late to the party, but here to watch our shit work the magic. Yeah, you're never late to the party. The party just never stops. So that's how we do it here.
I like that.
okay, so I'm going to make this nav menu work. So
Yeah.
let's see what I'm doing here.
Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. So this is working perfectly now. I'm using the invert feature in Webflow to create that interaction right here, and I have just connected it to the home page. And now you can see that this is fixed. But when I'm scrolling, the nav bar is fixed, but the logo will always be stuck on the top. It's not going to scroll with us, just like the website.
And it looks like in your Z indexing, you're going to have to go a layer up on both of those things because I think we added a Z index to that little border. And so you can see it's overlapping there. So, yep, there you go.
Nice.
5, and this one is going to be 10. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Nice.
I don't know about you all. Sometimes, like, I get into, I don't think I ever developed like a formal system with my Z index, but I would go in like bigger steps to leave myself room. So I almost never use like 1, 2, 3. Like my nav would almost always be like 900. And then something else would be, like a 500. And then, and I don't know why. I don't know why I would do this. A lot of times it was just for my sake of mind and playing with the Z index. But then I would just know. And the nav is like almost always going to be at the top. And if I needed to stick anything else underneath there, again, there's no right or wrong way. I don't know that that's going to hurt or help anything. But yeah, when you start messing with Z-index, then you can start seeing stuff like that, where you end up with something that you bump up 1 notch, but then you don't remember that the other thing you bumped up 2 notches. And so just remember as you start playing with that Z-index that you could have multiple values throughout the site there that will conflict with each other, just like we saw in that little overlay there when our shit scrolled down.
Yep.
And I wanted to point this. Michael said, this is a great comment. The great part is that I was able to use Client First to recreate a full site in under a couple days.
Great.
That's the magic here.
Yeah.
You know, that's the magic. And it's scalable, it's performant. Yes, perfect. Heart you guys. We heart you too, Michael. Thanks for hanging with us. Let's see, here's a question from Daniel Nichols. Does the nav underscore logo dash link have to go in a wrapper? Harshit. Or Joe?
Yeah, it doesn't have to go into a wrapper, but from what I see here, Harshit, if you can open this, I would put it in a wrapper because I don't like to give size rules to links. If something is being placed with layout, if I have to apply some other styles, I like to do it to a div rather than a link. I like to have my own control of how large that click target is. And to do that, I usually like to have it as a second layer. So I would do it the way Harshit does, but no, it doesn't have to be like that. So Harshit, where was the decision in this?
Yeah, so initially I was thinking that I'm going to make the whole thing absolute positioning. I will apply a position absolute to the whole thing. But because we have a fixed nav bar, that is going to conflict with the Z index, right? When I will try to click on the nav logo wrapper, it will not allow me to click on the nav menu bar. And that is why I decided to apply position absolute to the link itself. And in this particular case, I can also place this outside. Okay, so again, like Joe said, it's not necessary, but this is something that I have done here. So I can go both of the ways. Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
And again, a lot of times this comes down to your personal preference. Some people like to call the external container a wrapper, and some people like to wrap a lot of stuff. I mean, I tend to default to not nesting things unnecessarily, right? So like the least amount of layers that you can have that let you get the job done, but not less than you need to kind of keep things organized and use the global system. And so don't be scared to nest things inside of things. A lot of times too, you could do this because maybe you build something and then you want to put two somethings inside of it, in like side by side or into each other. And so then you want to nest that inside of a div and call that then a wrapper. And you could even have a wrapper, you know, but again, this is where you can get convoluted and you could get like, you know, a little confusing. And so just be careful about how deep you nest some of these things. And again, just be very clear with what you name it. You know, whether you want to call it a wrapper or a wrap, just be consistent, you know, so that if somebody comes in, they don't think, oh, well, a wrap is different than a wrapper. You know, and I was trying to make some hip hop joke about a rapper, but it didn't come to me. Bob, you just couldn't come with the jokes today, okay? What's up, Alexander, saying, finally popped in during my lunch break. All right, what are we having for lunch? Okay, I think I cut to the different screen. Okay, so Harshit, walk us through what's happening here. What are you, I see you clicking, I see you doing things. What are you up to?
Sure, so right now what I've done is I've created a nav menu wrapper. That is actually the nav menu by default. So I'm just going to rename my this thing where I'm having link. I'm going to call it links box because of the reason I will tell you. I'm not calling it link wrapper for some reason. I'm going to create individual nav link wrapper because we have these kind of images. So the whole thing is going to be a nav link wrapper, and inside that I'm going to place the nav link. Okay, so this is the nav links box, and this is going to be our nav menu. Now, here comes the fun part. So you will see how I am kind of making this stick to the right side. I'm using the default Webflow nav type. We have the over left, over right, and drop down. So I'm just going to select over right here, the second option. And from here, you can see that if I'm going to apply any kind of style to it, it will not work perfectly fine. So when I give it like 100 VH, I will not be able to apply flex to it. You can see that it's not working. That is something by default in Webflow, we cannot apply flex to our nav menu. So the hack to do this is you don't really have to apply a min height to your nav menu. Instead, you have to take a diff block inside, and I am going to call it nav menu master wrapper. Because of the reason, this master wrapper will contain the top portion, this logo, then there will be a link box, and then we have the bottom wrapper, or I can call it top wrapper, middle wrapper, and bottom wrapper. Both of the thing will work fine. So let's just create our nav underscore master wrapper that is going to wrap nav menu master wrapper. There we go. And this is going to contain 3 parts. One of them is nav underscore this one menu logo. So let's okay. So here we go. Now this is the situation where we generally run out of names, but here I can simply type something like nav menu logo wrapper. Now it is very clear that this is a logo wrapper, but this thing is inside the menu itself. So this is kind of clarifying the thing for me. And
Right, and that's because you've already used the logo wrap or logo wrapper for the main headline, and so the appending, that menu, whatever you put it,
the menu keyword.
Right. So now you're just giving it a keyword to know that hey, this is the one from the menu.
And that's a great method for client first naming. You can have keywords after the component name. So we have nav as the component name, and you can have any amount of keywords after that to help stay organized. Menu, top, bottom, content, whatever. You can continue to use these keywords as you're naming things in that part of the component. Yeah. So really well done here, Harshit.
Great.
Nice. Great. And there is actually one more way to do this thing. What you can do instead of having, when you feel like it's getting too complex for you to, it might create a confusion for you. So what you can simply do is create a component. So what I can do, the second option is from my button, the nav menu button right here, or the menu, maybe I'm just going to call it menu component, but that's going to create some confusion. Or maybe I can call it nav menu component. So nav menu is now a separate component, but again that is something that can also create confusion. So you will have to take some decisions there, selecting a good keyword. What I have done is simply use the menu keyword to kind of have for all of the elements inside nav menu.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that if you're coming from like a Figma to Webflow, or if you're doing a design file to Webflow, it's very common in software development, software design, etc., to think of these class names ahead of time, right? To think of how you're going to name things. This is why your information architecture is so important, right? So that you know, especially when you get into like collections and you're building complicated grid cards or blog cards or something like that, you kind of want to know, is that, what kind of card is this? What page is it on? And thinking about that ahead of time helps you kind of consider, okay, where am I going to reuse these elements, right? You don't always have to use this stuff like on the fly. You don't always have to think of this stuff on the fly. Sometimes you can do yourself a little bit of a favor by thinking about those class names and the structure of it ahead of time, so that when you come into Webflow, you've already got an idea for how you want to lay this stuff out and how you want to name some of these classes. So just something to think about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back to this comment from WKD about the z-index, saying z-index only interact with sibling elements, which is great, but sometimes not. I agree. Sometimes I would like to be able to overlap things. So just so you know, if let's say you have a container that's got like a z-index of 100 and another one that's got a z-index of 50, and then inside of the one with 50, you try to go 150, it's not gonna pop up because its parent container is only at 50 and the other one was at 100. And so even though inside of that you have a sibling element that you wanna raise up above it, to get that above the 100, you would need to pull it out of that sibling container with that higher z-index. And so that's a very good point to make there, WKD, is that you've got to be careful where you're applying the z-index on those elements because of the way it inherits that state.
Nice. Okay, so I will continue now here. And when I'm zooming out, I can see the nav bar is divided into two parts. So I'm just going to create a top wrapper. Just I created the bottom wrapper. And then I'm going to make directly jump inside the main thing, the main juice here. So as you have seen, I have taken a nav menu master wrapper. Now I can apply the minimum 100 VH here. So now it will work fine. And I can also apply a flex box because now I'm not using the nav menu, the default Webflow nav menu to apply the flex box. So this is the hack to make it work. You just take a wrapper inside the nav menu and apply the styles to that one.
Yeah.
Let's make it vertical. And I can also apply a minimum of here, a min of 50 VW, so that always remains 50% of the viewport width. So these are the cases where you can use actually the VW unit here.
Yeah, and Harshit, can you explain again? You said you were going to create a top and a bottom piece, and then will you just use the flex, positioning to attach one to the top and one to the bottom, and just have those kind of spaced out, or how will you handle the kind of alignment there with those elements?
Yeah, sure. So definitely, I'm going to use the flex box. So all the top part is going to be contained in a nav top wrapper, and these links, the social media links, and these some smaller links here are going to be in the bottom wrapper. So let's see how it will work. So I have my master wrapper right here, and inside that I'm going to take another div block. I'm going to call it nav underscore menu top wrapper. Now I'm going to place my logo wrapper inside this and my links box inside this thing. Inside my logo wrapper, I'm going to take the image and place my logo just like this. And I can call this one nav menu logo. There we go. See, I'm not running out of names yet. And it's very clear that it's a menu logo. I can give it a width, but let's give this a automatic width for now. Joe, do you think is there any minus point of giving an automatic width here?
I don't know.
What is your take on that?
I have never applied width like that. That was never a practice of mine. My first thought is to use class-based, but no, top of mind, I don't know if there's any negatives to doing that.
Okay. So
does that show up as an inline style?
So what I was actually thinking is that is it automatically responsive? Let me check. So, okay, see, it's kind of that is why I was using it. So whenever we have something that is not having a fixed width, but this width, Webflow makes it responsive automatically. So let me show you that.
So, and this is a good question here. Does anyone recommend using, like I might have used percentage here, right? Like you could use a percentage of the parent width, or any other unit. Like what are your thoughts, Joe or Harshit, on? Because it looks like it's fairly static. The logo as you slide in and out, like on the main site, but it does respond as you zoom in and out. So I don't know. And this is one of those things where it could just be personal preference, right?
This is something, if I was building this is something I would apply a fixed width rem value. There's no scaling of the logo as you change the size of the screen. Yeah, and I'm thinking that maybe when you're applying that width, it's applying it as an inline style. And applying as an inline style is going to add more HTML to your page.
Yeah.
And there are some speed tests that will negatively affect that and say, hey, take those inline styles and put them in your style sheet.
Right. Yeah, inline
So
styles where possible is something you do want to avoid.
Yes.
We were talking about the negative margin before. There are some times where you may need to use it, but again, as little as possible. That is something that I would for sure recommend not using, is inline styles. What's up, Keegan and Oz? Welcome. Thanks for joining us here. We're in the middle of building the menu navigation for the Outline website, which you can find at theoutline.com. If you'd like to take a look, we're building this little interactive element, and it looks like Harshit. That'd be interesting too to see how. So I'm seeing just a couple things that you'll have to address at some level. The nav itself needs to overlap that original outline that you've, like the center one, when it opens up, and then it kind of darkens the rest of the page. So I'm wondering if you'll need to add another wrapper to the menu there that kind of fills, maybe it's absolute, fills the whole screen, and just adds that like dark overlay. I'm not sure if you're seeing that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it does
That's a
cover
nice point.
that whole thing covers. Yeah, so you may then need to adjust the z-index on that menu to be higher. And this sometimes maybe it needs to be separated, right? Like this could be one of those instances where maybe the nav bar being fixed to the top of the page and covering up the center logo may not work. You may need to fix 2 different divs to the top left and then keep your nav, whatever your parent nav wrapper is, to almost no height, or 0 height, so that it doesn't overlap that center outline shape, and then you can adjust the z-index on the right menu to be over top of it and still leave your center logo clickable. But again, these are just some of the hurdles of trying to build, like complex or some of these different things here.
And this is a really common thing where you build these structures, it looks good, you do a few tests, and then you get further in the build and say, ooh, this actually has to be changed a little bit. I have to reorganize because I didn't think of this situation where there's no way this z-index can be bigger than this z-index. So yeah, what Reimar said makes sense. That's another way to do this. So yeah, we'll leave that up to Harshit and see what he wants to go and change here. If
Yeah, so I'm
anything.
just kind of dividing it into 3 parts now. Let's try that one now because we have the outline logo in the middle as well. So first I'm just going to, okay, so what I did is I have removed the fixed from my nav menu bar, and I'm going to apply that in individual elements like Rema said. So first we will apply it to the nav brand link, and then we are going to apply it to the nav button itself. So let's apply that fixed position like this, and now I can remove my padding itself here.
Yep.
Just like this. Yeah, the negative margin here. And yeah, I might have to align them a little bit here. Let's see what we can do in that case. So this is having, I think I will give this a minimum height here. So let's see what height this thing is having. 72 divided by 16, that is 4.5 rems. And here I'm just going to give it the same height, that is 4.5 rems. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can make them perfectly aligned like this. Here we go. And the middle one is already having the same height because of the padding itself. And now let's see if it works or not. Okay, now this thing is having some issue. Let's see what we can do here. Absolute menu wrapper, page padding. Okay, let's remove the page padding. We don't need that anymore. Nav menu button. Okay, and then this one is going to have a fixed position. There we go. And now we can just improve. I just applied a fixed position to the nav menu, and I'm going to increase the z-index to something like 20 maybe. Maybe I should just remove this thing and apply it directly here. Okay, for some reason it's not working again.
This could be that parent issue where your outline is above, the parent div of your menu situation there. So I'm thinking, I'm wondering if you could get away with having this all in one div that's absolute at the top, and then, or maybe not even absolute, and then just put everything in that div and then fix the corners, right? So you have 3 elements, let's say you have essentially a container at the top, a div at the top with all three, and it's just a static div at the top, and then you just fix the elements inside of it, and then you can mess with a z-index on those and not deal with any of the child issues that you're facing here, and still get the hoverability because it'll all be in one div all the way across it, one span all the way across the top. Which I think would also help with accessibility, because then all of your menu and nav elements could be in like a div that you could mark as nav, I don't
Yeah,
know
let's
if
try
that
that.
made any sense or not.
Yeah, we can try that out. This is the thing, this is very fun to kind of solve these issues here. I enjoy this thing. So
Yeah, this
troubleshooting
is
is
the
also
fun of
fun.
building live, right? This is like literally and this is
Yeah.
the struggle you go through when you're building something like this, right? Like this isn't something, again, we don't rehearse these. We don't, spend a lot of time like breaking the sites down and then building it, and then we come here and rebuild it so that it's all perfect. Like literally we find something cool, we're like, what can we build? And we get together and we build it. And sometimes that means, you got to learn on the fly, you got to make adjustments on the fly. And this is very much just like the development process is, right? And so how's that feeling, Harshit? It looks like you were, or did you go back? It looks like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
doing
it's
everything there.
working right now.
Yeah.
I think it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to adjust some of the z-index. So
Sure.
right now, like you said, I have placed all of the thing inside a single nav container, and the middle one is having a static position on it, and the left one, that is the icon, and the menu button itself is going to have a fixed position,
Nice.
so
Yeah.
that they are good.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm just going to create a different wrapper for it, because right now the nav menu button is different than the menu. They are two different things. So what I will do, I create a nav. I will create a wrapper. I will call it nav menu. What can I call this one? So nav menu button wrapper. That's a nice name. There we go. And let's place both of this thing inside this. So nav menu is something that is always hidden, so we can always also place that inside this one. And now I'm going to remove the fixed position from my button itself and apply
on the
it
trigger.
to this one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So fixed. There we go.
Great.
And it should work fine.
Nice. Yeah, and Mario, sorry, let's see, Mario's saying here, it's such a shame the stream starts so early, I can't watch them with all my parent responsibilities. Don't worry, they stay recorded. So if you miss them live, or you have to jump in live, don't sweat it, they are available. We can't obviously answer your questions after the streams in real time, but we do try to answer questions on YouTube comments and get to those. So yeah, unfortunately, we do the streams when we do the streams, and hopefully people can tune in. Sometimes they can't, but yeah, and if there's a better time that works, let us know. Maybe we can try to accommodate with other stream times, or as we're planning, we'll think about other places or time that we could do this. So Jeremy's saying this is real world problem solving, exactly, 100%. Penny, I love seeing you guys have to figure these things out too. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's most of development, whether it's visual or not, most of development is literally just figuring shit out. It's like, you gotta Google something, you gotta like build it and then realize you didn't build it right, and so you gotta rebuild something else. There's a number of things, like this is how it works.
And we have to call out this nice joke comment from Daniel.
Yeah, Harshit, hang on, Harshit. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about adding a lot, I wouldn't worry too much about this right now. Like, just use the icons just for time. Yeah, just use and you could just create an X there. You could use a plus button with like a Helvetica font, make it super big and flip it 45 degrees, and you'll get your X real nice. That's another point too, actually, when people, if you're gonna use an X, instead of using an X on the keyboard, you want to use the plus button, because the plus button actually gives you like a true cross, and then you can pick whatever font you want. I usually use like a Helvetica Light, or some like a Open Sans Light, something like that. And then you just give that a 45% rotation, 45-degree rotation, and you can get a nice X without a whole lot of work.
I will lightly recommend against that for the reason of you have to load a new font on the page.
Yeah.
Which is generally a lot more
Sure.
performance heavy on that initial load than having something like an SVG.
Sure.
So cool way to do it, but if it requires you to load a brand new font on the page, it's going to hurt that speed score.
Yeah, good point. I'm using either that Open Sans or Helvetica or something like that in my build. So I'm usually trying to see first, does the plus symbol in the font that I'm already using have that? Can I use the native font, whatever? But that's a good point, actually, that an SVG would also work incredibly well there. I just don't recommend using the X itself because you get like an ugly X, right? So the point was not necessarily that use one versus the other. It's just don't use the X because the X is ugly. What's up? What's up, Simon? Web Development saying yes, the new template is live. Great. So we just shared that in the chat, and I think we pinned that. Can we pin that up there? So Client First Template 5 released. So a whole new template there for anyone that's watching the stream and wants to jump in and grab those resources. If you go over to the Client First page. And actually, let me do that here. If you go over to the Client First website, where we have all the documentation and everything, you click the resources button, and you can see there's 5 different wireframes, and now there are, it looks like maybe the site needs to be republished for the 5th one, but the link is live there. So we just shared the link for the 5th template. The other thing that we want to highlight here is, let me pull this graphic. The other thing we want to highlight is the submit. We are looking to showcase your client first builds. A lot of people have been sending us these on Twitter. A lot of folks have been sending, like in Slack or in different places, sending us their builds. This is the official place. Come to the Client First documentation site and submit your client first builds. We'd love to showcase those. We're working on a little showcase website that will, kind of highlight all of those various submissions from the community.
And we've been getting some really quality submissions in. It's really impressive to see how quickly people have picked up on Client First and the level of design quality that can be used for Client First. It's amazing to see all the different projects. And when we launch this showcase, you'll be able to see all the different things that people are using Client First for.
Michael Rose is asking, is there a Client First Slack group? There is not.
Not officially.
Not publicly. We do have a group of folks that kind of started as like our event planning group, and that turned into the Clone Comp group, and now that's kind of expanding. And the problem there is that we don't monitor that for support, and so we don't really have. So there is some stuff happening kind of inside of that Slack, but it's not like an official support channel. And so yeah, at some point we may do that. Just right now, it's kind of happening in random places. So I said Slack, but it's also happening like on Instagram. People send us stuff. On Twitter, people send us stuff. In Facebook, in Messenger, like random people just send us different things. So let's see. All right, so Harshit looks like he's now adding the little styling to the buttons here. He's going black with the buttons. We've got some icons that we're going to add here to get this functionality. And so yeah, we're just watching Harshit. And what are you doing here when I see you're on the website, you're opening it up, looks like you got the inspector open or something like that on the live site. What is it that you're looking for specifically there?
Yeah, so I am actually using this inspector tool to see the font size of the text. So this is like 100 pixels. And then what is the process that I'm following here is I'm just typing the number here. So let's say I want 100 pixel size. I will divide that by 16 first. And then I will look for the closest value. See, this is looking huge here. So I will just go, sometimes it might be looking for something else. It might be not correct. So I'm just going to make this fit something like this. And yeah, this is what I'm doing. And I have styled the thing. So let's actually see the structure, how the structure is here for now. So we have the nav menu that is set to 50 VW. Inside that, the important part, it starts from here. Okay. So this is divided into three parts: the nav menu logo wrapper. And here I have given a bottom margin of 2 rams to kind of divide it from the link box. Let's apply a 3 ram value here. Yeah, this is much better. And now the bottom wrapper is right here. You can see the bottom wrapper is right here where I can place the smaller links just like this. Okay. Now I have also applied a padding on all of the sides of my master wrapper so that we have spacing on the left side, on the right side, and on the bottom side. I have applied 5 ram on all of the side, and this is what I'm going to use. I can also go with percentage here so that it's kind of not it's kind of scaling with the whole thing. So let's go with percentage. Percentage is a better choice here. Yeah, 10%. I will go with 10%. There we go. And now I'm just going to apply a hover interaction on one menu link. So why I'm not using a big logo link, sorry, I mean the link block. I'm not using a link block here because we cannot edit that in the editor. There will be a feature in extension that will be coming soon where we can edit the link blocks. But again, I want to make it something Webflow native. So I have just created a link wrapper. Inside that, I am placing my nav link, and all the paddings are going to be applied on the nav link itself so that the whole thing is clickable.
Wow, that's a real client-first move there. Right in the build, as you're building, looking out for that client experience after you deliver. Maybe this isn't the most ideal way to build it, but you're building it like this so the client can now very easily edit in the editor tool, which is what they're going to use to grow their site. So yeah, think about these things as you're building. This needs to work for me, it needs to work for the next person in Designer, and it needs to work for the client who is using Editor. Make sure you're thinking about this with your decisions.
Yeah, and Harshit, I think on these links, it looks like what you're trying to do is match the red of the background there on the static state, on the non-hover state. And actually, I think the font stays red even when the hover. I think the only thing that changes is the background of the black going to white. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't understand why it's not changing its color. So you can see that I'm applying the color on the nav link, but for some reason it's not changing it. Yeah, just changed. Is that some kind of global inside? Let me see.
Color inherit.
Color inherit. Let's see if this is causing the issue. Oh yes, that is the thing. Okay, so how can I fix that? Let me see. I think if I apply here, it should work. There we go.
Yeah,
So that is something, Joe, I think we should take note of.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that is something we should take note of. Also, the font in the menu is not the serifed font, so we should go to like whatever our non-serif font for the site is here. Yeah.
I'm not going to choose Open Sans.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah,
some
sure.
issues with that, right?
What's that?
No.
I don't know. It's
Open
fine.
Sans bold. That's fine.
Okay.
Yes. Sure. Later.
Okay, nice. Yeah, this is looking much better actually. The bold version. There we go. And now I'm going to make my leg blocks a grid. There is a nice way to make a grid here. So what we can do is simply, I can apply a bottom margin here, but the thing is then I will have to create a combo class for the last one. There are multiple ways. So let's see all of them. So one of the ways, you can apply a bottom margin here to kind of separate them. And then in the last one, you are going to apply a combo class called is last, and then remove this thing from here. To make the structure simple, you can go with this way. The second way is you can make, okay, let's remove it from here first. You can make your link box a grid, delete the column, and keep the row. Okay, and now also delete one more row, and now it is actually set to auto. As you add more links here, it's automatically going to create the space like this. And now you can see that there is some kind of issue when I'm having this. It's overflowing the whole thing. So how we can fix that? The only way to fix that is in this particular design I see is to have a overflow auto. So I'm going to apply that to my link box. I'm just going to apply a max height to it. I will go with 60 VH and apply a overflow to auto. Now, whenever I'm trying to expand this thing, you can see I have this
Yeah,
scroll bar here. I
and
can
I would
style it
actually
as well.
recommend against not doing that. To be honest,
Okay.
I would put the scroll auto on the parent container so that your footer bounces out. In this instance, I don't think it's an issue because we're only going to need 4 because those are the 4 that we have on the site here. But I don't like nested scrolls inside of containers that are fixed height. So I would probably on your full width, on your full height div element there that your menu sits in, if you're going to set an auto scroll, I would set it inside of that so that that whole element scrolls and you don't have like a chopped button sitting in the middle of your page somewhere that would look a little awkward. So I,
That's a
that's
nice
how
point, yeah.
that's how I would do that so that those, because it flex right now, you're flexing the top section of this and the bottom section of this, and so that will separate those. And again, I don't think it's too big an issue here because we're only trying to recreate the 4, so I'm not sure we need to go too far down this
Yeah.
rabbit hole, to be honest. But we can just leave it to the 4 there. But I'm
Okay.
just
Yeah,
not a
there
big
are actually
fan of from a
multiple ways to
UX.
do that, Ramar.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of from a UX standpoint having like a scroll inside of a page that scrolls. Any kind of nested scrolling behavior is just not great for the end user in my mind.
And again, Ramar, if you think a different perspective here, that these structure is especially made for few links only. If there are more links, the design must also change here. Big links
Correct.
don't make sense if there are more than like 6 or 7 links, right? So this particular design is especially made considering that there are 4 links only.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I am going to apply a hover interaction here.
Yeah,
And
shouldn't change color. The text should not have to change color. It's just the background changes from black to white.
oh, there we go. Ah, now it's fine.
Nice.
Let's
Great.
also apply a transition of 100 ms here just to have a
Yeah,
smoothness.
nice.
Nice. And okay, so here comes one important part. So what I have done here is I'm using the save menu button with a Z index of, I applied here 100, you can go for like 20. Okay, so I'm going to apply 20, and let's apply it to the nav menu button instead of open one. So I'm just going to apply it here, 20. And what it will do is you can go both of the ways. So you can see that my nav button is always there. Let me remove this scroll bar from here. So we will have this always here. And the second way to do that is if I don't want to have it here. So in the website, you can see these two things are separate. So this is a different button here, and this one is a different button again. So I actually need your suggestion as well, Joe and Remar here. What I was doing in these kind of scenarios generally is I used to copy my nav menu button. I have named it open. So first I will remove the Z index here, and I'm going to paste the same thing inside my master wrapper. Okay, so let's do that. First I will open it, and here I'm going to, let's make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to paste this thing. The fun part about this is that it kind of works correctly and perfectly fine. It's kind of a trick, you can say. I'm going to name it nav button close, and I'm going to give it a absolute positioning on the top right. Now what it will do is, let's see. Okay, so for some reason this is okay. I'm going to first remove the auto scroll. Okay, and now you can see that it's kind of appearing there, sliding from the right side.
Yeah, and if it was an X, it would be behaving just like the other one. Although I'm not sure because you're still getting an overlap. Is the other one still sitting underneath that?
I think I should apply maybe,
Higher Z there.
yeah, higher Z index. You're right. Maybe in the open version, that might be the reason. Oh wow. So in the preview, it's working fine. Let's see on the live website.
Yeah, that was interesting. I saw that in the preview window, it's the Z index is overlapping the logo, and then on the live side it wasn't. And I'll be interested to see what the WKD is pointing out the same thing.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
It was just auto index again. So what I've done is I have set it to relative. So it is kind of not moving anywhere, but I can now apply a manual Z index there. So it is something, that might be messing up internally. So
Yeah.
what I have just did is applied that thing. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and these are little things that you will run into in Webflow that are not documented, like little bugs or little glitches or little things here and there. Sometimes you're working and you find something like
Yeah.
this and you're like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, yeah. So I've definitely racked my
Yeah.
head against stuff like this every once in a while. What I was just gonna say something and now I forget what that was gonna be. It just had something in mind. Oh, the background, the graying out of the rest of the page when the menu is open. And I bet that's a click trigger to close the menu as well. So how would you handle that, Harshit?
Hold on. First,
I see. Okay.
let's
sorry.
make sure
Yeah.
this menu and X thing is good.
Oh yeah. Yep. Sorry.
Let's,
Okay, sure.
Let's try to get a different. Can you get a different icon in there so we can, we can see some difference of icon?
Yeah, and I would probably.
Yeah.
And this goes into maybe because we chose the Webflow menu button. You have to stick with the way we've chosen here, otherwise we'd have to rebuild this. But this could also be one of those things where, maybe you need a custom interaction to have a different div here that just hides and shows without, triggering this instance here. And then you just have on first click, it opens, and then on first click, it closes. And then just two completely separate objects. So that could be, again, another reason why thinking ahead or needing to build a custom interaction versus at the beginning of this, we talked about being able to use the native Webflow menu. So there could be reasons down the road where, again, you find that a decision that you made at the beginning is not going to work. This is why, the more you can kind of think some of this stuff through before you build, and you're just never going to avoid all of these things, right? Every once in a while, you're going to run into stuff where you're just like, okay, how do we fix this on the fly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
and
right.
the-
So
go ahead.
I'm just going to place a text block here for now and call it a plus, just like Rema said, so that we can actually differentiate if it's working or not. So it's kind of working, but the thing is, you can see the nav button itself is coming up. It's not showing up on the preview, but again, on the live, it's coming up in the top for some reason. I'm not sure why. Let me check. Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's all.
You may want to check a Z index that could be added to the menu button when that is open. We're probably going to see a W-open, and that likely has a Z index on it, which is why you may see that in the live version and not in the preview version.
You mean like natively added by
Exactly.
Webflow as like an
Exactly.
extra style? Yeah.
When things happen, when you are opening and closing things, specifically the nav bar in this instance, Webflow is adding classes to these elements to tell the JavaScript, to tell CSS, hey, this thing is open or this thing is closed. On its next click, we're going to close it.
Yeah.
So these classes do exist, and that's probably what's happening here.
Yeah. And
So you may
Okay,
want to use
so-
a higher Z index. That could fix it. So if you go Z index 9999, that's going to cut Webflows. I believe they only go up to 99.
yeah. And WKD is saying, I almost never use the native Webflow button element. I prefer the flexibility of a div with click interactions.
Yeah.
I do too. My personal, like if I had started building this, I probably would have gone custom div and used custom interactions. However, you lose some of that accessibility stuff we talked about before. You lose some of that, some of that baked in accessibility stuff that, just happens out of the box here. So.
And why is this happening? Because that nav menu, because it's set to auto?
Yeah, maybe because your nav menu doesn't have a width to it. I wonder if you set that to 100%. It looks like it's centered on the page and it's trying to open from the right side of the center of the page.
So the nav menu.
The nav
I see.
underscore menu.
Nav underscore menu, this one, right? Okay.
No. Further in.
Oh,
The
this
menu
one.
that we're working with, yeah.
So it is actually set to absolute. Let's see this.
I thought we had
Why
that.
this is happening?
I thought
Yep.
we had that too fixed.
What
Why
I'm
is it
thinking
not-
is the parent container, I think, of your main nav. Is there a width set on that?
No.
Where's the preview link? Share the preview link in the chat
Yeah.
so we can all take a look, or
Let's get
share it
into
in
this.
Slack so that we can look at that. Because then we can, yeah, this is like
Okay.
this is like some real time troubleshooting here.
Yeah. So I'm going to open the share link. Wow. This is giving it hard time, right? Yeah. But yeah. Here we go. I have shared the preview link.
Okay.
Let's see what I can do here.
So Harshit will look, and then we'll also take a look. But what my first guess would be is this main nav, this first nav, or one of the elements inside of it. Yeah, you see this nav bar? I wonder if I set this to 100%.
Totally.
Right, because this is centered. This nav underscore menu dash bar doesn't have any width to it,
Totally.
right? And so this
okay.
nav container, when you open that, it's taking that center point as it's fixed as the right positioning. So I bet if you then sat 100 VW to that,
100%.
or 100%, what am I doing here? 100%. Yeah, now if we open this in preview, got it, close. Yeah, then it opens from the right. There's still a little padding because it's coming from the right of the menu, but that's exactly what it is that your parent container there didn't have a set width. Yeah. Again, don't forget, y'all. Your boy
Yeah,
knows what
that
he's
is
talking
because
about.
of the nav menu bar.
He still got it.
He still got it, y'all. Let's see.
Nice.
This live build is so inspiring. Eli, let's see. Eli's saying here, this live build is so inspiring. So many good tips and tricks. Thanks for making it happen. Yeah, for sure. Glad you're finding some use in that. And then WKD is saying you can use an embed to create a button and then style it in Webflow. It'll create a proper HTML button. Nice. Okay, that's a good workaround for some folks that might need to do that.
So, Harshit, why do we have so much space here? Why is it only spanning the size of the padding? Because you have the padding on
Because
the
of the page wrapper.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think
nice.
I'm just going to apply it to the section
Yeah.
separately, the page paddings. Or maybe to the section padding itself. No, not the section padding, but
Yeah, and that could be why in the preview the button was opening to the right with that little padding on it. It could be the same thing. It's got that
let's see
page
what we can
padding
do
there.
here. Okay, main wrapper. So the page, this thing is now going to be removed, and the page padding will be there. Let's see what we can do with page padding. So page padding is going to be outside, maybe.
Nice.
Okay,
There
so
you go.
yeah, this is one of the way this is kind of fixed it. But if you want different page paddings, then we will have to change the structure of our bottom section, these sections right here. So let's see what we have. So we have a
Yeah.
section padding.
You had it right there.
Yeah.
You had it right just a second ago, just putting the padding inside of that section. It seems to be working, and the menu seems, at least on my end, like when I opened it up on the preview, and I was able to open it up, it looks like the menu is now giving us the behavior we're looking for there,
Nice.
which is coming just straight from the right. And I don't actually mind. I don't think we need to get lost in making this button an X. I think for right now, it could just be the same menu button to open and close it. I think just for the sake of moving to the next area, if we get this menu opening and closing from the right, we can just presume that with the custom interactions, you could go in and change that to an X, and it would be fine. You could hide
Yeah.
show divs, you could hide show
Yeah, you're
other
right.
elements.
This is what I generally do, because of the same reason. So I will show you a project. So here, when I'm clicking on it, you can see I have the same name menu that is having a lottie animation. So that is one of the best way, we are not
Sure.
actually lost here and creating multiple buttons. There is
Yeah.
one more way to do that. If you want to go with, there are some custom ways as well, where on click of that particular button inside, you are making a click on the nav menu button using
Yeah.
jQuery, but that is completely different thing. Yeah.
I'm just thinking for the sake of time here, Harshit, we're already coming up on 2 hours. So we're at about an hour and almost 40 minutes now. I think we just need to get into the interactions of the little icons and whatever load we're going to do here. So let's not get too lost on trying a bunch of different options. Let's just get into placing those icons and
Sure.
and
Yeah,
getting the
definitely.
rest of that.
Okay.
And
So
yeah,
what I will quickly
WKD,
do-
that's 100% right. 10% skill, 90% troubleshooting. Yeah. That's it. That's the thing I think people don't really understand. I remember watching Nelson. I learned Webflow, watching Nelson's live streams like this. And he used to do a lot of this stuff in the early days too, where he's just literally building live and in real time. And like you would see him struggle through it, and you see the end product that sometimes people build, and you think like, oh, they're pros, they know it all, they never make mistakes. But that's not true at all. Like you always kind of struggle through something. No matter how many times you've built, no matter how many times you're doing it, you may have a better idea for what you did wrong because of the experience, or you may be able to troubleshoot it a little easier because you've got a little bit more experience, but you still need to kind of like dig in, and like there's always going to be something that just catches you by surprise. I was telling Joe about with production, there's always booby traps, and with development, it's the same kind of thing. There's always some little thing. The cool thing we don't have to worry about with Webflow is like, is a comma out of place? Did you close your bracket, 3 lines of code ago or whatever, right? Those are the kind of things that Webflow helps with without having to worry about. But there's always some little thing that could hold you up. Michael, this has been great. Yeah, thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate you. Let's see, had to come into the stream late and just went through the earlier stuff on high speed. I have had all these problems, major struggles. Was so helpful to see you all work through it. Yeah, 100% Keegan, that's the game. So we're just over here learning as we go. Harshit is now placing some of these icons. So what did you just drop like a little icon div in there and give it an absolute position, stick it to the top left and make the button relative, or what was the process there?
Yeah, definitely. So the nav link wrapper I created, this is the reason behind that. So now that it is set to relative position, and inside my nav link, next to my nav link, I have a nav link icon, and I'm going to use combo class to separate them. So let me show you what I exactly mean. So we have this nose. So I will just create a copy of this image, and I'm going to name this thing is nose. Then I will change the position of it and make minor adjustments that I need, something like this. Maybe play with a little bit of the danger thing, that is z-index, and replace my image with the nose. And this is the same thing that, or maybe I can call it left top, right bottom. I can go with that name as well, so that I can always copy and paste it, and the naming remains consistent. So let's call it right bottom, something like this, and this is going to be in is left top.
Yeah,
Like
and what
this.
you'll notice, and I don't know that we'll have time to do this. Let me just show what he's trying to recreate here is this final interaction. You'll see the cup is at the top, then it goes to the bottom, and they're just kind of cycling through, you know, so it's not like it's on the left here at one point, and then now the phone is on the top, and then after it reloads, the cup goes to the bottom. I don't know that we'll get to build all of that on this instance of it. I think we're just going to build a couple of these little interactions here. And of course, you can spend as much time as you want refining these interactions, you know, really getting into the nitty-gritty of all of the little different bits and pieces of this. We're just, you know, we're going 100 miles an hour here trying to get the core of it. Hopefully through getting the core of it, you understand the concepts. And then when you get into your own project, you can really start playing with and experimenting with and getting into those nitty gritty details of just doing, you know, the full thing. So Keegan was saying I scrapped
Yeah,
and
and
went custom div. Go ahead, Harshit. Oh,
Harshit?
Harshit, did we lose you?
Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, I was reading the comments.
Oh yeah, Keegan saying I swapped out and went custom div, like you said. Yeah, sometimes, and maybe you're more comfortable with custom interactions, or you know how to make things accessible, or you just want full control because you want to do something else on top of this. No wrong way. No, you know, there's no wrong way to do it. So
yeah, let me show you actually a plus point here for using the Webflow Nav Bar. So I'm just going to make that little fun animation here on the live. Okay, so this is something that I really want to show, a nice trick. So you can see when I'm opening it, these are not loading once, you know, not all of them are loading at the same time, but they are having a delay on them. So what we generally do is we go inside the nav, you know, when we create a trigger, we set timing, you know, different for each and every nav link, but there is a shortcut for that, a much easier trick that I will show you now. So very basics of it, I'm just going to show very basics of it. So I will use the nav open trigger. So let's select our nav menu bar, go to the trigger, nav menu, when nav bar opens, create an animation, and I'm going to call it nav links animation. Now I'm going to select my nav link wrapper, set it to opacity 0, and I will set this as initial state. The second step that I'm going to create is set this to 100%. And the important part, I'm going to set the duration to 0 here. So generally what we do is we create multiple copies and set different timings, but this is the fun part I'm going to show here right now. Let's now then close this thing. So we have an initial state, and then we have this. Maybe we can set a delay. Yeah, let's set a delay of 0.2 seconds, or maybe just leave it. Yeah, let's leave it like this. So the thing is, now I'm going to apply a transition to my link wrapper, the nav link wrapper. So I'm going to apply a transition of 300 ms first. Then I'm going to apply a combo class to other of them. So I will call it is 2. This one will be is 3. And this one is going to be is 4. Okay. Now let's apply different transition timing. This is going to be 600. This is going to be 900. So I'm having a 300 gap here. This is going to be 1200. I hope it works, but let's check it. So when nav, okay, so when nav closes, I will have to create one for that as well. So let's go into the nav menu button, create one animation when nav bar closes. I will create a copy of it. I will name this nav open. This is going to be nav close. I will set opacity to 0 again here. Save it. It should work fine now. So this is disappearing here because I am just switching it to the preview mode, but the right way is to hide this first. Okay, so there we go. It's kind of working, but we do have to figure out some of the things like the timing here. I can change the timing and make it work perfectly. I will try to set a delay here. So this is a much actually faster way to have this feature working. Let's set a delay of 0.3 seconds. There we go. And now I can just replace, I can just change the transition timing here. So if I'm feeling it's too fast, I can go ahead and change it to maybe, let's change it to something like 800. I'm just going to increase the timing gap here. This is going to be 1200. I'm doing some random timing here, but you should do something consistent. And there we go. So this is a nice trick that you can use to create an interaction. Yeah, and you can actually create some really cool interaction using this particular method, where you are using a movement. So I have just applied the transition to opacity right now, but you can use a move, apply it to the transform. And what you can do with that is you can create interaction something like this. So you can see this section. I have not animated each of them individually, but I have just animated the class of one of the image, and then I have set different transform this timing to different elements. So it's kind of creating a fluid effect for me. Nice. So this is one of the nice way to create interaction in Fastway.
Yeah, it's a super nice trick actually. Instead of having to go and create a bunch of different interactions or trying to have a multi-step interaction for each element or something like that. So yeah, that's a good little tip. Let's see, where was Keegan? Earlier in the stream, there's a little trick, the menu icon to find out what its height was, that you could match the logo on the left. It was just to divide by rems and then get the value and then make sure that the logo was matching that value. So there wasn't much of a trick there. It was just kind of doing the calculation in, again, the designer there. You can just do a simple divide by and have it equal the rems. And then once you get that height in rems, you can then apply that to the nav logo on the other side. And it looks like, are you just going to use like a simple on hover? It's got like a little shake, like a little wiggle. Webflow's got like a little wiggle or bounce. Webflow's got a ton of.
Yeah, I'm using the jiggle. You're right.
Yeah, let me show too. Let's see. Here, preset. I have this page here that I can share. At one point, I thought I was going to do a course on interactions, and then I ended up getting this job at Finsweet, I kind of stopped doing a lot of this stuff. But if you ever need to know what these things do, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what each of the preset interactions does. And so I kind of created this, actually the jiggle one, or the jello one might be the right on hover. Yeah.
Let's see the jiggle.
Jiggle? Where was jiggle?
I think jiggle is right.
Let's see.
Yeah, maybe the jiggle's right.
I'm
jiggle
using
on
jiggle.
hover. Yeah, jiggle's probably right. So, yeah, if anybody wants, here, I'll share this in the, don't judge me on the rest of the site. It's a project that started but never ended, but we'll go back to our shit screen here.
Not using client first.
Yeah, there's no client first. Actually, it's probably a complete nightmare in there, so anyway. Let's see, I lost my cursor. There it goes. All right, and harsh shit, you got about 10 minutes here to wrap this thing up. We're gonna try to keep this thing under 2 hours today. So let's see if we can get to a nice little stopping point here on those interactions with at least a little bit of the menu finished. And then maybe what we'll do is, Harshit can wrap some of this stuff up, and we'll get this up as part of the, whether it's a share link or as an asset. We can get that out to y'all if anybody wants to dive in deeper and see the rest of it. Let's see, Keegan, you have to have a click field you want to populate and press enter. It will give you the value in pixel. Yeah, WKD is saying you in the click field you want to populate and press enter. It will give you the value. So you can do some simple math inside the Webflow designer in that capacity. And again, we've covered this in the past. The goal for these streams is not to get pixel perfect design representation here. It's to show you kind of how to use client first to build different things, different elements, various elements, how to manage spacing globally, little tips and tricks like Harshit was just sharing there. You know, just giving the concepts, right? Like the idea here is to learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, and then as you go, you can start pushing yourself, you can start getting a little more nuance, you can start kind of figuring out what it is you actually want to do, because there's no real value in rebuilding the outline site per se, it already exists, right? But maybe you want to build a menu, something like that in your version that gets you close to that, right? And so this could be a way to just kind of help learn and understand that. So,
and also notice that Harshit did not use a single global spacing wrapper in this nav build, and there's a good reason for that. A lot of times we don't want to use our global spacing system because if we have to change that, if we say, hey, we're going to make all the spacing medium, spacing smaller or larger, that could have a huge impact on that nav. And navs are usually have to be very exact. They need to be pixel perfect because they can't overflow, they can't change. So a lot of the time, yeah, we want to keep our spacing custom when we're building custom things like this nav.
yeah.
And yes, and the whole purpose of this stream was not to actually show how we can make interactions and all. The whole purpose that I was thinking before the stream, I was talking with Remar, is that we want to show that it is actually possible to make complex structure as well. This kind of structure definitely takes some time to figure out because there are multiple ways. If I'm building this for myself, I may go with some custom codes as well, so there are like different branches of how you can make this possible. But the whole purpose of this stream was to show you that how you can name things better in a clear way. Again, when it comes to naming things as well, there are multiple ways, but it is definitely possible and we will not run out of names. So this is what we really want to show here in this stream.
Yeah, and somebody, you can watch this and anybody can nitpick and say, oh, well, it doesn't look like the thing perfectly. Well, again, that's not like necessarily the point here. We all know we got design talent, all over the place here at Finsweet. If Harshit wants to build something pixel perfect, we know he can do that. That's not the point, right? The point is just in an hour or two to show you all the concepts of how, this is just troubleshooting, how we're building things live, and in the real world, you're not constrained to an hour for the stream or 2 hours for a stream. And so, and also you never know what comes up, right? For us, it's interesting and more value to take the time to answer the questions of the audience and to go through specific needs of what people are asking for relative to what we're doing, rather than, again, spending a little bit more time trying to get everything exactly to match. So yeah, was the font perfect? No. Is the spacing exactly how it is in the original site? No. Is that important to us? No. Right? So we just being clear here that the point of these is really to try to pass the information on and to give you the tools to be able to do this stuff on your own.
Yes, and initially we have also tried that, right? When we started these live streams, what I was also doing at the same time, I was using the client first, but I was also trying to make everything pixel perfect. The minus point of that was I will have to rush a lot of times, and it was not really adding a lot of value in terms of smaller things. Now you have, you just take 5 minutes to discuss how to position your nav bar. That is the beauty of these kind of streams that we are doing right now. So we are taking our time to explain each and every bits of naming things and structuring things here.
Yeah. Well, then plus we built it and then we rebuilt the header, that nav bar, right? Because we built it one way and then we realized that way wasn't going to actually work with how it needed to like it wasn't going to work with the way that the sidebar needed to open up. And so we had to go back and you got to rebuild that. And so again, it's just very lifelike experience here. This is that build in public, learn in public, just trying to figure out, what comes next. So, apparently some construction comes next. You guys can probably hear some pounding over there. Yeah, this is Mexico. Welcome to Mexico. Everything's under construction here. At least the jackhammers weren't going.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's okay.
The streams are fantastic. Really appreciate that you answer our questions. Yeah, that's the point, right? That's the goal, is to get y'all in here, teach a little bit, share a little bit, and hopefully then this helps you on your next build or to understand whatever the next concept is. And so, Harshit, any other final thoughts here before we wrap it up?
So so my final thoughts are that just before creating a website, whenever you create a website with client first, take decisions. You don't have to worry about messing up things. Sometimes it's fine to go back and make changes to what you have done. Okay, and that is the whole thing that you can take from this stream. It's perfectly fine to mess up and recreate some of the things. So that is the thought of this stream. Yeah.
My final thought is, tell us what to do next. That we have this new community voting page. We're going to bring that up for you. I'm about to share the link inside the chat here. And this is a way for you to tell us what to do, whether it's with features in our products, whether it's content on this live show. Go ahead, get in there and start suggesting things. Do you want us to focus on this specific website or this specific concept? We will be updating this page. We update it with the responses, and then the community can vote on it. So if people also think the way that you're thinking and they want to see something, if it gets to the top of the list, we're going to do it.
Yeah, and right now there's not a lot of ton in here because we just launched this. We haven't really started promoting this yet. And so high likelihood, if you make a suggestion, it's going to find its way to the top as we start sorting this. Again, last week we were all kind of in person, in-house. There wasn't a lot, at least Joe and I, of figuring out kind of content and what moves forward. Hopefully from here on out, we'll be back on kind of a more of a regular schedule. But as anybody who's following along knows, I'll be bouncing around location to all of the different places where we'll be. And yeah, just join us for the journey. We're going to keep learning, growing, building, and storytelling together. So yeah, I think that's it. Any final thoughts, Joe, as we close out of here?
That's it from me. Thanks for learning with us. See you next week.
Yeah, nice. And Harshit,
Bye-bye.
any final thoughts?
No, we all love you guys. Bye-bye. I will see you in the next one. Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, everyone. It's been real. We'll see if Harshit maybe gets some of these resources cleaned up. I'm not sure the best way, but maybe we'll get that out there. So maybe by next Thursday or something, we can have some of these assets ready, just kind of tightened up a little bit. And yeah, again, feel free to share your thoughts. You can do it in the YouTube comments. You can go to finsweet.com/vote. You can go to the growth website and keep up with or watch previous episodes there. And of course, if there's anything you'd like us to see us focus attention on or do in the community, we'd love to hear that from you. So otherwise, catch you later. It's been real. Much love. I'll see you from the next